Today we will be dividing rational numbers, and we've got two different types of rational numbers we'll be dealing with, either fractions or decimals. So we've got the first three problems being fractions. So let's take a look at it. And on this one we have two positives being divided. And in the next one we have a negative and a positive. So we're going to also have to deal with some negative and positive numbers as well. So let's take a look at the rules real quick again. So remember, if there are two positives, a positive divided by a positive, or a negative divided by a negative, we're always going to end up with a positive number, just like multiplication. And then also, like multiplication, when we have just one negative, whether it be a negative divided by a positive or a positive divided by a negative, we always end up with a negative number. So let's get into the problems. So the first thing we're going to end up doing is taking the dividend, 3/8, and we're seeing how many times 5/16 goes into it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use a rule, and our rule is multiply by the reciprocal. So again, multiply by the reciprocal. And what that'll do for us is, first of all, it'll change it to a multiplication problem, and that gives us an algorithm in which we can go ahead and do the work. And the way we do that is, just like we had done in the last section, we cross cancel first. And so 8 goes into 16, we have 2 times, and 8 goes into 8 one time. So we can go ahead and multiply across. 3 times 2 makes 6, 1 times 5 gives me 5. And then we can go ahead and do the division to see how many times 5 goes into 6. It goes one time with 1 left over, so we write the answer as 1 and 1/5. So notice how 1, the whole number, goes there, and the remainder ends up going in the numerator of that answer. The divisor is always the divisor. So we get to do the same thing here, noting that we have one negative, so right away I know my answer is negative. So it's always nice to write in that sign right away so you don't end up getting the answer wrong. So negative 3/4, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal again, so 8/5. And then we can go ahead and do some reducing. So 4 goes into the 8, we have 2 times, 4 goes into 4 one time. Multiply across, I end up with negative 6/5. And then I can do the division just like I had done before. And we've seen this once before because 5 goes into 6 one time with 1 left over. So 1 and 1/5. But this time the answer is negative because we had just the one negative. Well, over here we have 2 negatives. So right away I know my answer is going to end up being positive this time. So the 2 negatives will cancel, and I have a integer. So I can write an integer as a fraction as negative 6/1. That's going to help me out when I go ahead and take the reciprocal. So negative 3/10 was that number. Let's go ahead and fix that. And we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So negative 1/6. Doesn't matter where the negative sign goes because they're both going to cancel. And we can go ahead and do the division. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 goes into 3 one time. Multiplying across. Left with 1/20 as the answer. Well, looking at the next problem, I've got a decimal, and the rule with decimals is we want to divide by whole numbers. So let's go ahead and move that decimal point over 2 spaces in the divisor. And now we're going to divide 9 into a number. Well, if we move the decimal 2 spaces in the divisor over, I also have to move it 2 spaces in the dividend. So I'll do that as well. So 542 and 7/10 is really what I'm going to divide into. So let's go ahead and start doing the division. 9 goes into 54 6 times evenly. And 9 goes into 2 now, 0 times. So put a 0 up there. Do the subtraction, I'm left with 27. Now it's always important to bring those decimal points straight up. And divide 9 into 27 goes 3 times. So 60 and 3/10. Well, looking at our next one, move the decimal over 1 space. So we're now dividing negative 4 into, and then move the dividend over 1 space, 4 and 64/100. So remember, right away, look at the sign. We've got a positive divided by a negative. So we're going to end up getting a quotient that is negative. And then we can go ahead and do the division. 4 into 4 goes one time, and that goes in evenly. We bring that decimal point straight up. I'll do that first this time. Bring down the 6. 4 goes into 6 one time. Do that subtraction, and 4 into 24 6 times, evenly. So once you get that remainder of 0, you know you're done. So negative 1 16/100 is our answer there. Well, looking at our last one, we have two negative numbers, so we know our answer is going to end up being positive, and in the divisor I need to move that decimal 3 spaces over. So it's really going to be 3 into, and then I have to move the decimal 3 spaces here. Now I ran out of numbers. It means I'm going to end up having to put in a placeholder. So that's a 0. So I'm dividing 3 into 6,210. So again, the two numbers are negative, so my answer is going to end up being a positive. So I go ahead and do the division. 3 goes into 6 2 times. So 3 times 2 makes 6. And I end up with 2 left over. 3 goes into 2 0 times. And I have 21 left over now. 2 left over, bring down the 1. 21. 3 into 21 goes 7 times. Now, a lot of people will finish the answer right here, but you're not done until you get to the end of the number. So we still have to go 3 into 0, goes 0 times. So my answer is going to end up being 2,070. That is our answer. So those are the types of problems that you're going to see on tonight's homework. Good luck.